another segment of Lady Mogul Talk, and today we have Tatiana Dorsey, another HBCU alum. As you can see, we probably have a theme going on here with HBCU grads, but we are so excited to have you here today. And I'm just going to read a little bit about her bio and then bring her in to just talk about her amazing experiences. So Tatiana Dorsey graduated from North Carolina A&T in 2011 with a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology, and she later pursued a master's degree in Human Resources Management in 2014. And she resides in Atlanta, so I reside in Atlanta, so we definitely have to get together later when it's safe. And she works in the consumer goods industry in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she has dedicated to creating inclusive and equitable working environments where employees feel welcomed and bring their whole selves to work, which is so important, especially as we're realizing the space we're in now. Most importantly, well, not most importantly, but I think it's a highlight of her platform. She is the owner and operator of Ladybugs, a 501c mentoring organization with a mission to build, uplift, and guide our sisters. And she is committed to ensuring every girl feels empowered, and especially those who are marginalized. So welcome, Tatiana. Amazing. I can't wait to hear more about your story. Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. So I wanted to go to straight to your nonprofit because I looked at your website and I liked that you said more than mentors. So I wanted to know what motivated you to start the platform of Ladybugs.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my experience at North Carolina A&T, I had the pleasure of working as a peer mentor on campus through housing and residence life. And by my senior year, I had the absolute pleasure and joy in mentoring all of the women students that lived on campus. So lived within housing and residence life. And what we started, or what was already kind of created that I was continuing at that time, was called Sister Circle. Mm-hmm. And we would go into the dorms, which we call residence halls, and we would have sessions weekly that really just said, come and just talk. Let's talk about how you're feeling. Let's talk about what's going on campus. And it really was established for people to start developing community within the residence halls. And it's really exciting for me to kind of think back on that journey and I smile as I think through it, because there are so many relationships built within Sister Circle. It was targeted towards freshmen, and we had literally, this is 12 years ago, maybe. And they're still friends to this day. They're celebrating baby showers. They're in each other's weddings. And this really established lifelong friendships. I loved it so much. It wasn't oh, I got to go do this session. It was, I can't wait to do this session. I was always kind of gearing and preparing for what the sessions would be. I loved talking to all of the women that participated in the sessions because each of their styles were unique. All of their stories were unique. And I graduated, right? So it wasn't something that I was going to continue to do with them on campus, but I was like, man, I love this. I really want to keep this going. And there was a common thread and theme in the sessions. And it was always when I was a little girl back in my childhood, I wish I had known this, or I wish I had known that. So I took kind of that platform and created mentors. And we started, because I'm big on planting seeds that you want to see grow in specific areas. And I wanted to start at home around A&T. So we took schools and recreation centers in Greensboro, North Carolina, and High Point, North Carolina, and started mentoring programs. And from there, we launched More Than a Mentor, because it became more than just us kind of having these talk sessions with these girls. we were celebrating birthdays. There were mentors that were going to their homes to help them get ready for prom, and, celebrating them at their senior nights, and, in high school. And then we also wanted to make sure too that it wasn't just like, yeah, we're going to help you with your college application, but the girls that made up the group, and it was all Aggies that were in the group of mentors, they were doing so much more than just mentoring, and they had so much more to bring to the table, and they wanted this creative space, to be able to flourish and thrive and say, we want to do these things. Like, can we have this type of session with them? Can we teach them about engineering? Because I'm an engineer. I'm like, absolutely, of course. Well, I'm a scientist. I want to do stuff with this. Or I'm early childhood development. Let's have some, topics around this. So we really wanted to make sure that people understood that our platform was bigger than that. I would like to call out, since then, we and that was years ago. We started in 2011. Since then, I have moved around quite a bit. It was very difficult for me to manage it, not being local. And I have built out a team. So I actually have like a leadership team. And the beauty in that is all of the people that make up the leadership team are former mentors, or people that I even mentored when they were in undergrad. So we're all Aggies, and we continue to kind of matriculate Aggies as much as we can, because we believe in reaching back and giving back. And it's more than just kind of like, come and be this big sister. We give professional development opportunities to our mentors. I can't tell you how many times somebody's like, yeah, I'm getting ready to teach for America, or I'm applying for this job. I'm applying for grad school. Can I use you as a reference? Can I write what I've done in Ladybugs? And I'm like, absolutely. And make sure you express that it's more than just mentorship, because you guys have helped us plan empowerment events, and you're doing all of this kind of one-on-one coaching with these younger individuals. But to my point, since then, it's been very difficult to manage in person. Mm-hmm. And also a blessing for us, because we were already thinking about moving towards a digital platform prior to COVID. And as you can see now, COVID is making that mandatory and necessary. Mm-hmm. So we are actually redesigning our platform. We're going to be revamping our website very soon. And it's good for us because we get to expand our reach. Mm-hmm. So we're going to develop what we are calling, it's still the Ladybugs, and we're starting to focus more on those stories that I told you about earlier in those sister circle moments, through what we're calling as the Loveliness Project. And we call it the Loveliness Project because, by definition, of course, loveliness means attractive or beautiful, but also by definition, loveliness means like a huge swarm of ladybugs. And it is so big that the weather system picks it up as a storm. And we thought, wow, there's so much beauty in that analogy of when you get all of these people, all these women, all these beautiful stories collectively together, it can take the world by storm. And we really want to start focusing on elevating the voices of Black women through their individual unique stories.
Wow, that was amazing. I mean, we could just stop the interview right there, because that, just the mission alone. And then, yes, I can see why more than just mentors is the philosophy. And I just took several gems just from that. It takes a village, the importance of having a team, even though you're going to be pivoting. So that's number 3, just pivoting, and then aligning yourself with other people who believe in the mission so it can just carry forth. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And we need to figure out how I can be a support with you.
Absolutely. I'd love to partner with you in the future. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Now, going along with the theme of the Ladybugs and what you do to help young ladies, in what ways do you think we can support the next generation as they continue to grow?
That's a really good question. And it's also actually been very challenging for us in Ladybugs at sometimes, because what our kind of concept and our method was to take college students that were already doing these things, that could go back and reach back and say, hey, I'm an engineering major, or I'm getting my degree in engineering. I heard through your teacher and your counselor that you're interested in STEM. Let's have conversations. So it's really important to take back. It started to get a bit challenging though, because by generation, when you have myself, a group of mid-age, older age millennials, and then you're matriculating down to Gen Z, and then now this upbringing of younger girls is, I think they're calling it Generation Alpha. The technical capabilities is so different. The processing of information, the thought process is just really, really different. So what we try to do is offer the wisdom for us, but I kind of like to pivot that and shift it on its head. And I like to create structures and programs where they could even mentor us and they can teach us, because it becomes kind of like a two-way conduit, because we have so much to teach and so much to learn at the same time from these newer generations. And sharing our Loveliness Project and telling those stories, we're hoping that we can bridge those gaps between the baby boomer generation, the silent generation, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, all the way down to Gen Alpha, so that we can all kind of tell these stories and learn, but gain nuggets from each generation, if that makes sense. It's important to give back to every generation behind you because there's so much to learn, but it's also important to receive their wisdom as well.
That's true, because we can learn so much from the generations that are coming after us. And it was just so simple back in the day. And it just seems like it just continues to evolve as we get more newer voices into the world, and just the way that they process, as you said, it's just so different from like when we were growing up. I didn't have a phone until like high school or like maybe late middle school, and here they are learning at age 3 about phones and everything. So it's an interesting time.
Exactly.
Now I want to transition to talk a little bit more about yourself. I wanted to ask, have you experienced any challenges along your journey? And if so, what lessons have you learned that have catapulted you for your next level?
Yeah, so along my journey within my nonprofit, the challenges once again was just really not being there. But what I started to learn to do was to leverage the capabilities of my team. I leveraged them so much. I was like, hey, I need some partners in this. You want to join my executive board because you have the knowledge, you have the passion behind this, you love ladybugs just as much as me. So come along with me for the ride and for the journey. And I have a team, we're a team of 4. So I have 3 other individuals that have come and helped me with those challenges, because being away at the time and still currently not living in the Greensboro and Greensboro and High Point, North Carolina area was making it very difficult. We are hoping that this digital platform will kind of alleviate some of those challenges and help us, because not only does it expand our reach, but it puts us right in front of someone else face to face like we're doing right now, just at a virtual aspect and virtual component. So I think that would probably be the biggest challenge that I have, but solving that is is having a team.
Well, you answered my question about pivoting, which is so, again, we're just learning so much about ourselves during this whole year.
Yeah.
My question was thinking about your success. Like, what characteristics or qualities do you think have attributed to your overall success?
And I'd like to kind of rephrase that, if that's okay, because I usually don't even think about what we're doing as like success. I always, and my team will tell you, we always get on the phone and we're like, and we're on a conference call or virtual face-to-face call, and we're like, okay, what can we do now? Like, what can we be doing differently? Where do we need to, what can we offer? What is it that is needed by our communities and our groups that we're trying to touch? And honestly, I think that is what makes the success, is that we're constantly allowing ourselves to evolve. We're always open to feedback. We're always kind of just trying to figure out ways to stay relevant. We did let's go into the school, let's go into the recreation center, let's host these in-person programs for so long. And then the area kind of started to become very oversaturated with other groups that did similar things, which I just thought was beautiful, because there's no one size fits all for how this works, right? You need to have these other groups. I think for us, in terms of sustainability, we had to really challenge ourselves and say, hey, is this going to work for us in the long run? And as we are all getting older, I started Ladybugs in 2011. So, we're well on our way now in terms of, what is that now? 9 years ago, because I'm losing track of time based in 2020 with everything that's happening. And since then, I have finished grad school, I have gotten married, I've had a baby, and my life is significantly different. So is my team. So we're all just trying to figure out ways to continuously evolve and to help us kind of sustain that success.
I can totally agree with that. And yes, definitely an evolution. I was talking with someone else about how even though our purpose might be the same in some ways it just evolves over time. And then we might pivot along the way, but we still find a way to align ourselves with our purpose. So thank you for sharing that. I want to ask about your personal journey. Is there someone who has played an integral role into who you are or who has shaped you into the woman you are today?
That is always a tough question to answer because I can never pinpoint down one person. I always have to, like, when I get asked this question, I always need to reference my family, my mother, who is amazing, my father, who is awesome. It's really funny being the oldest out of, 3 kids total, 2 other siblings. I really feel like I have so many traits from both of my parents. So they absolutely did. But I think that always goes without saying, right? So if I think about my journey, I would really have to say my influencers. And I was just on a live session last night, and the title of it was called The Human Resource. And he was calling me the human resource. And I thought that was adorable. But he also asked, who's your resource? So I have to first and foremost say my husband. He is my safe space. We met at A&T my freshman year. So we have been going strong since we met in the library. And he has been on this journey with me. And from all of the places that we have moved and relocated to him making the decision that he wasn't scared about my ambition and he wanted to stick along for the ride. And, we decided to get married. And now we have this beautiful little Aggie baby. But he's my rock and he's my support system. There's never an idea that I bring to him that is too large in his opinion. And we're both very different. We're like polar opposites. So it's always really funny to kind of get his take on how that works. But he is my rock. And then of course I have like my friends, I have my sorority sisters that all kind of mold me. And if I could just really boil it all down, I would say that it's each of those experiences that have made me who I am. I moved around a lot when I was younger. So I think that that's also probably why I do what I do and why I'm always trying to learn from other people and understand what their experiences are, because I think at a very early age, it taught me that my world wasn't just my world. There were so many other perspectives. So I think it's inclusive of everyone that I've ever kind of come into contact with that kind of shapes and molds me to think like, well, so-and-so thinks this way. So that doesn't mean that this way is wrong. I mean, there are people that think this way, or so-and-so's from here. My husband's from Louisiana. So before I met him, I had never stepped foot in the bayou. I had never had crawfish or anything like that. And he opened my entire world to southern Gulf Coast states that I had never been to before. And now, we got married in New Orleans. That's how much we love it. So I would say everybody that every professor at A&T, every manager that I've had, every person that I've worked with, the good, the bad, and the ugly, they have all played a part in just kind of developing me and who I am and my perspective. But I always have to go and say, thanks, Mom and Dad.
Right. Yes, that's so true. I feel the same
way. They are, I am Tatiana because of them. So.
Yeah. So you can give them that 20 later, just,
yes, exactly.
And I thought it was so ironic that you mentioned the human resource earlier, because I always like to know what people are reading or what resources have helped to sharpen their mind, because I'm always on a quest, like many of my audience, to just enhance their mind. So what resources or books would you say is a must?
I'm going to be very vulnerable and be very transparent with you because I think that's important. I don't like listening to these segments and, people kind of just say like, yeah, I'm doing this. And it just, everything kind of sounds beautiful and like a fairy tale. I'm just going to be very truthful. So COVID and prior to COVID, I am a very anxious person by nature. So I have always struggled with and dealt with anxiety, and COVID has really brought to the forefront how much anxiety I actually have. So right now I'm reading books about anxiety and just trying to help myself manage that and figuring out how it works for my style and things that I need to do to try to keep that going. Until then, I've never picked up a book about anxiety. And with a psychology background, I was really surprised in that because I have a huge, huge understanding of mental health and I'm a huge advocate for it. And I would have told you like, oh, I'm reading this for pleasure. I'm still trying to, my latest book was Queen Sugar, and I'm reading different things about organizational development and inclusion and diversity for work. But my go-to book right now is this book on overcoming anxiety, worry, and fear. And it is by Gregory Lance. He's a PhD with Anne Murray. And this is really my go-to right now because there's so much unknown that's happening right now, and just trying to manage all of that. I'm trying to figure out how to just, be less anxious while I'm trapped in this house and can't go anywhere.
And thank you so much for bringing that to the forefront, because we all cope in different ways. And I'm a big proponent of not hiding our personal battles. I've shared, I've shared my personal story about my battle of autoimmune disease with my audience before. And when I finally told my story, it was just amazing to see how many other women were experiencing the same thing. And they're like, oh, if she can say it, then I guess it's okay for me to like share my story too, or know that I'm not, at least not going through it alone. So thank you so much for being transparent and sharing your story and just revealing to the Lady Mogul community.
Absolutely. And I hope that, someone who might be struggling with anxiety or trying to figure out, what to do picks up this book, because it's truly been helping me. That, in addition to going to my therapist regularly and just trying to have a regular checkpoint, because there is no alternative for therapy. And I recommend therapy for everyone, no matter what stage or what level of, battles that you may be fighting.
Now, I hate to end the conversation on mental health because it's so important, but I do want to make sure I get to the book that you are co-authoring with your other fellow Aggie alums. I want you to talk about that and share your experience. I'm sure you relived some of the many memories you had at your HBCU.
Yes. And you know what? We are all dedicated to one chapter. And that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is just take all this 4 years and boil it down into a chapter. So I tried to think about it from what I wanted people to gain out of my chapter. And for me, as I mentioned, I moved around a lot. So I wanted to talk about, and if they even titled it, it would be There's No Place Like Home, literally, like clicking my heels like Dorothy on The Wizard of Oz or The Wiz. And, just really kind of boiling down how A&T became this home for me that I wanted so badly. I moved around all the time. By the time that I established roots and had friends, it was time for me to pick up and move again. And it was very tough as a, throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school, to always have to be on the go, always packing up, always making new friends. And although I am proud to say that I keep up with the majority of the people that I've encountered in my life, A&T is a different vibe. It's a whole different game. And even for the Aggies that I've never met, or that I've never had class with or graduated before me, I've told every person I've interviewed with, I love wearing Nalia, like my A&T Nalia. I have to use this opportunity to shout out Hall Pass Shop, because that's where I got it from, and she's my Neo. But anytime I'm traveling, I always throw on at least a hat or something, because it never fails. I always run into an alum. And the difference is, because some people might be like, well, who cares if you run into an alum? Let me explain the difference. The difference is, I have been in an airport terminal and somebody has seen me in a sweatshirt, hoodie, hat, and they will be on the other side and be like, can I get an Aggie pride? No joke, no lie. And of course, a true Aggie always responds, Aggie pride. And then you're running to each other. And it's like, oh my God, I went to A&T, I graduated in so-and-so. What dorm did you stay in? What did you study? Do you know so-and-so? And it's like, we're sitting there greeting each other like that's my aunt that I, haven't seen in years, or this cousin that I haven't seen in years. It never fails. It always happens. Gas stations, grocery stores, never fails. And I love it, because it's like, let me put this on. Let me see who I'm going to meet today, because we're literally just getting this family, this sense of family. So my chapter is about how it kind of provided me with this belonging. It doesn't fail. It doesn't matter where I've lived. I've gone as far south as Miami. I live in Atlanta now. I always go back home, and it's like a tidal wave of nostalgia and just feeling feeling like, let me go just see so and so. Let me go hit up Dr. B and counseling services and see what she's up to, because I used to work for her and I know her door is always open to me. Like, that's a beautiful thing. Let me go see Dr. Robinson because, he used to give me all this lifelong advice, and let me see what he's up to today. So, just having that is just awesome. And of course, I talk about, the things that I did and the organizations that I was a part of. My grandparents went to A&T. And I didn't even know that really, because they never really shared their experience until I got into high school. And when I was trying to make my decision, my grandmother was like, "Oh, you got to go to A&T. Like, you're not going anywhere else." And I was actually Howard bound at one point, because I was born in DC and lived in Columbia, Maryland for a good portion of my childhood. And I used to think, well, that will take me home. That'll give me the nostalgia that I need. I was like, "Oh no, you're gonna go to A&T. You're gonna stay in Holland Hall." I didn't stay in Holland Hall, but she wanted me to go there. My grandfather's whipping out his student ID from 1950 something. Still has his picture, still in great condition. I keep asking him to let me keep it, but he won't. Sharing all these stories. So I got there, and I tell people all the time, it was the best decision I ever made. I love my A&T family, my line sisters, my friends that are family. I met my husband there. Like, best 4 years, and it flew by, unfortunately, but best 4 years of my life. And we look forward every year to going back to our family reunion, which is homecoming for us, which we call the greatest homecoming on earth. And you might hear it called as Jiho, but we and when we go, we party, and we're excited to see each other, and we're like running. It's just constant hugs, which is why COVID just messed that up, because there's no way we could all be on campus together and not be hugging each other and not be, catching up and being in each other's space. So sad year this year, because, we aren't able to go, but that's how it is. And I love it.
And as you were rehashing your experiences, I was just thinking about my fun memories at Clark Atlanta.
Yes.
And we have even if you don't attend the same HBCU, it's still a family affair, because you're like, "Oh, you went to HBCU,
Yes.
And so you're like, "Oh my goodness," and you just share whatever experiences you. Every HBCU was not for everybody, and they have different experiences. But I am grateful for that experience, and like you said, it can't be replaced. It's just something about going home to just relive those memories.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I love, we may tease each other in our own little HBCU as our rivals and stuff, but we're never going to let anybody else who didn't go to HBCU say anything about somebody else in the HBCU family, because it's just different.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're drawing to a close, but I do want to get this last question in there. What is the next journey that you're going to embark on? What's next for you?
That changes all the time. Right now, I'm loving the work that I'm doing. I work in diversity and inclusion. I have been now for the past 5 years or so, and I just love that work, because it's what I'm dedicated to during working hours. It's what I'm dedicated to outside of working hours, and it's really like my motto and my mantra. So I plan to continue doing that work, and hopefully continuing to matriculate through, that work and rising above the position that I'm in right now. And I am all hands on deck for the Ladybugs. We're taking this digital platform. I am so excited about it, because I just know that it is really going to bless a lot of people. And we're looking to offer learning and development opportunities on our website for free, and have, financial literacy conversations, mental health workshops, anything that we can think of. And it's ever evolving. We're always kind of just saying like, hey, this is a topic that isn't talked about enough, and Black women go through this too. So how can we bring it to the forefront? How can we showcase it? And to me, that's exciting, because I am a Black woman, and I think that that is important. And there's so many things that we experience and go through that we don't often get to hear it told from our side. Mm-hmm. And that is important for me. And I literally am dedicating my life to doing that.
And thank you so much for all of the work that you do. It is important. And I like to call it amplifying Black voices, Black women voices specifically as well. So thank you for just continuing that. And I just throughout this interview, I've said a living legacy that you have. So thank
Yeah.
you so much. And I appreciate you for stopping by with Lady Mogul Talk. I hope the audience has enjoyed it as much as I have, just learning more about you. I feel connected to you, especially now that I know you're in Atlanta. So we're going to have to do something.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this. Is it possible for me to just drop my handle?
Yes, please do.
So, especially just for the Ladybugs, if not anything else, after Ladybugs Official, please do follow us. If there's a story that you want to be told, we are, like I said, dedicated to elevating the voices of Black women. And personally, I'm at closer_to my dream. And I have a family page if you're interested in seeing my little Aggie family. It's at Digging the Dorseys.
And we'll be sure that we disseminate all of that information because we do want to stay connected with Tatiana. So thank you so much again for joining, and I will see you all in the next Lady Mogul Talk.
Thank you.